Osgood has our full look at the forecast. We were just talking about that feels like temperature and what it actually means for people today.
Exactly, because even if you look at your thermometer, the temperature's still very high for this time of year, but taking into account dew points in the upper 60s and 70s really just makes it feel even hotter than it actually is out there. And because of that heat and humidity out there today, we did pop up a couple of thunderstorms throughout the afternoon. That can happen sometimes. Overall, haven't seen too many severe thunderstorms, but we did see just a couple hanging out in areas north of Bangor, and then a few down back towards western Maine and New Hampshire. Now, we just talked about that heat index, those feels like temperatures out there. Some places that had some thunderstorms go through, it does feel a little bit cooler out there. However, still feels like 103 in Sanford, feels like 98 in Calais, also up north in Caribou. And overall, it feels a lot more like Florida in July than it does in Maine in June. And these are our high temperatures today that you would read on your thermometer. Got to 90 in Portland today, 96 in Augusta, 96 also in Millinocket. Now, keep in mind, our average high temperature for this time of year is 75. And now look at our low temperatures for tonight. This is the coldest temperature that we would see, and we're only going to drop down into the upper 60s to lower 70s, only dropping down to 76 in Millinocket today, 75 in Caribou. So it's going to feel more like the middle of a day than it will be overnight. So we're not going to get too much of a relief from the heat there, unfortunately. And tomorrow, for a lot of us, especially closer to the coastline, even hotter tomorrow than it was today, getting into the mid-90s for a lot of us closer to the coastline. A little bit cooler, slightly, in areas of northern Maine because we're going to have a cold front move through, which will provide some relief from the heat as we get into Friday and especially as we get into the weekend. So because of the heat and oppressive humidity out there, the National Weather Service has expanded their excessive heat warning all the way down to the coastline and back into areas of Bangor. Almost the entire rest of the state is under a heat advisory in those orange colors, the exception being the immediate coastline of down East Maine. Now, I also do want to mention there is an air quality alert in effect from Kittery all the way down to Bar Harbor along the coastline there, and this can happen during the summer when the heat and the humidity are very high. So a couple more thunderstorms moving through areas, particularly of western Maine, but then once the sun goes down, we lose a lot of that thunderstorm fuel. But it'll happen again as we get into tomorrow afternoon because we're going to have a cold front move through from north to south. So that will pop up some thunderstorm, especially in the southern 2/3 of the state. And a couple of these could be severe, so we're going to keep a close eye on these tomorrow for the chance of some small hail and some gusty winds, especially in the afternoon to early evening. And then once that cold front goes through, it'll be significantly cooler on Friday, though temperatures still above average, and then back to regularly scheduled programming for the weekend. However, that front does become stationary, so we'll have a couple of thunderstorms and showers that will linger Friday and into the weekend. Rain forecast sees 3 to 4 feet. Water is still only 60 degrees, so if you're using the ocean to cool down these past few days, make sure you're taking the necessary precautions there. One more day of the big heat for tomorrow, especially closer to the coast. A couple of thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon. Some of those can be severe. And then a little bit cooler once that cold front moves through as we get into Friday. And then Brian and Amanda, much more comfortable as we get into the weekend. Temperatures upper 60s and lower 70s. A couple showers, but at this point, they'll be refreshing.
Yes. Yeah. Big drop in the temperature it'll feel. All right, Dana, thank you.